Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to flip a switch. Light will flood the room. You won't think twice about it. But for 99.9% of human history, that switch didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went dark, truly dark. And something in your body still remembers what that felt like. You might think you're afraid of the dark because of a scary movie you watched as a kid. That's not it. That's not even close. The real answer is far stranger. Your fear of the dark isn't a glitch in your brain. It's a message sent across hundreds of thousands of years from ancestors who didn't survive by being brave. They survived by being afraid at exactly the right moments. Picture the African savanna, roughly 2 million years ago. Your ancestors are small, slow, no claws, no fangs, no fur thick enough to matter. Everything around them can see better in the dark than they can. Lions, leopards, hyenas, all of them are nocturnal hunters, built with something called a tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the eye that bounces light back through the retina. That's why a cat's eyes glow in your headlights. It's a built-in night vision system. Your ancestors didn't have one. When darkness fell, they were nearly blind, surrounded by predators who were not. So what did they do? They didn't wander. They didn't explore. They froze, they clustered together, and they waited for morning. The ones who felt nothing when the light disappeared, the ones who kept walking, kept foraging, kept wandering from the group after dusk, they got eaten, quietly, efficiently, removed from the gene pool one bite at a time. The ones who felt a cold spike of dread the moment the sky went orange, who scrambled back to the fire, who stayed close to others, those were the ones who lived long enough to have children, and their children inherited that same spike of dread. This is the part most people never think about. Fear isn't a flaw. Fear is a highly specific survival tool, sharpened over evolutionary time to activate exactly when the odds against you get worse. And for a slow, clawless primate, no time was more dangerous than the night. Researchers have actually measured this. In 1998, anthropologists Sleep Aiello and Peter Wheeler proposed what's known as the expensive tissue hypothesis, arguing that human brain growth was only possible because early humans found safer, more reliable ways to get through vulnerable periods, including the dangerous hours of darkness, by using fire and social cooperation instead of raw physical defense. In other words, your brain got bigger partly because your ancestors got better at surviving the night without needing bigger teeth. And then came fire. Controlled fire changed everything. Archaeological evidence from sites like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa suggests early hominins were using fire as far back as 1 million years ago. Fire did 3 things at once. It kept predators at a distance, since most large carnivores instinctively avoid flame. It extended the day, giving early humans a few more hours to process food, make tools, and talk. And it gathered people into a tight circle, face to face, at the one time of day when isolation used to mean death. Think about that circle for a moment. A small group of humans, backs turned to the dark, faces lit orange, staring into flame. That image is stitched so deep into your species that you still recreate it. Campfires, candle-lit dinners, the blue glow of a screen in a dark room, everyone's face tilted toward the light. You are still, in a very real sense, gathering around the fire. Here's where it gets stranger. Your fear of the dark isn't really about the absence of light. It's about the presence of the unknown. Darkness doesn't create danger, it hides information. And your brain hates missing information more than almost anything else. In the 1970s, psychologist Ronald Melzack conducted research into what he called phantom perception, showing how the brain, when deprived of clear sensory input, doesn't simply go blank. It fills in the gaps. It generates. Your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly building a model of the world from incomplete data, and when the data disappears, the model doesn't shut off. It starts guessing. That shape by the closet, that sound near the window. Your brain would rather invent a threat than sit with uncertainty, because for 2 million years, uncertainty at night usually meant something was already stalking you. This is why children are often more afraid of the dark than adults, and why that fear tends to peak between the ages of 2 and 6. Their prediction models are still under construction. They don't yet have enough data to distinguish coat on a chair from crouching animal, so their brains default to the ancient setting. Assume danger, assume it's watching. This isn't weakness. It's an operating system doing exactly what it was built to do, running a threat simulation with insufficient input. Now here's the twist that changes everything. You'd think that as civilization advanced, as we built walls and locks and streetlights, this fear would have faded away. It hasn't. If anything, it's found new material. Psychologist David Rakison has researched how humans show what's called prepared learning, an evolved readiness to fear certain stimuli, like darkness, heights, and specific animal shapes, far more easily than we fear objectively more dangerous modern threats, like electrical outlets or moving cars. You can walk past a busy highway without a flicker of unease, even though it could kill you in seconds. But turn off the lights in an unfamiliar basement, and something ancient switches on inside you, even though nothing down there has hunted a human in 10,000 years. That's the strange part. Your fear didn't update. It's still calibrated to a savanna that no longer exists, defending you against predators that are, for most of you reading this, extinct or continents away. You're not afraid of the dark. You're afraid of the specific kind of vulnerability that darkness used to guarantee: reduced vision, reduced information, reduced control. And your body still treats that vulnerability as an emergency, regardless of whether a leopard is actually involved. This shows up in ways you might not expect. Studies on sleep and anxiety have found that cortisol, your primary stress hormone, tends to rise in unfamiliar dark environments, even when there's no real threat present, simply because the brain's threat detection system, centered in a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala, treats darkness itself as a risk factor to be monitored. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between a real predator and an empty hallway. It just knows visibility is low, and low visibility used to be correlated with death. And this is where your ancient fear starts explaining your modern life. Why do you check your phone one last time before falling asleep, flooding your room with light even when you're exhausted? Why do horror movies overwhelmingly rely on darkness and half-glimpsed shapes rather than full, well-lit reveals? Why does a city street feel different, feel heavier, the moment the streetlights fail? You're not imagining any of this. You're running software written for a different world, one where every one of these signals meant the same thing. Visibility just dropped. Stay close. Stay alert. Don't be the one who wanders. Even your instinct to reach for a nightlight or to leave a hallway lamp on for a child is a direct descendant of a fire circle on the savannah. You are, quite literally, keeping the flame lit against the dark, just with a different fuel source. So the next time you feel that small flicker of unease, flipping off the lights in an unfamiliar house, or that instinct to move a little faster past a dark alley, understand what's actually happening. You're not being irrational. You're not being childish. You are hearing a message that traveled across roughly 2 million years, through thousands of generations, from ancestors who had no fangs, no claws, and no night vision, but who had exactly enough fear to stay close to the fire, and exactly enough fear to survive long enough to pass that feeling on to you. Tonight, when you flip that switch and light floods the room, you won't think twice about it. But somewhere underneath that ease, a much older part of you already knows exactly why the light matters.